Hello, and thanks for joining me. Today, we have the Gatekeeper on the table once again. You may be getting tired of seeing this truck, but I keep doing little things to it, so I keep showing you the path I'm taking in building this truck. In past episodes, I painted the interior up, I added this 4Runner body, and then I had a big hole back here in the back, so I filled it with this drop bed. You can see all these in this playlist for this video. But next, I had another problem. After doing this body, up front I had a big hole right here. Looking at the front of the truck, you could see just back into there, see the servos and all that. I didn't really like that. And I couldn't really add just a radiator here because the radiator's in the back. So what do? Well, you can see some blue through here. That's because that's the color of the filament I had to use. I used a 3D printer and Thingiverse and added a motor. The motor itself is from the Element website. I'll post a link to it down below. It's a V8 motor. I'm going to paint it up to look like the Toyota racing motors, which is silver and red and black. Also there you can see a little oil cooler, and there's a battery there. I will take the body off to give you a better view, but I just want to show you how well that fills the hole, and once painted up, we'll give you something in there to see other than just tube work, servo, and speed controller. Okay, let's take the body off, and I'll get you a better view of that. Here's a better look without the body. So here's the motor. So I got this off the Element website. I did have to make some slight modifications to it though to get to fit the Gatekeeper. In a standard one of the trucks like the Trail Walker, 4Runner, it probably wouldn't be a problem. But here the problem I ran into was the cage interfered here with the valve covers. So I had to slightly dip those to get you a better look at that. I just took a Dremel and rounded them down and filled it with a piece of paper with covered in super glue just to kind of remake that. Didn't have to do that. This part I know is not realistic at all because the rockers and everything else under here would interfere or would be interfered with the valve cover dipped in like this. But you don't see this part of the motor with the cage in place if you have the hood on the cage. So there's a crossbar right here that would hit that. So that's why I notched it. I did it just so this motor would fit. Go ahead and pull this out. Show you some other changes I made. Also, I added sides to the motor here because on my case, it didn't come forward or set back against two servos. So I had to add sides to it. So you just couldn't see, looking from the side, see straight through to the other side of the truck. I think it just added a little bit better detail, as well as this right here. This is made out of plastic card, just cheap plastic card. If you followed my past videos, I use no parking signs because they're cheaper to get thick plastic card that way than it is to buy the actual sheets of hobby grade plastic card. See a piece right here? This right here goes down next to the servo, helps keep it from rotating. On the front of it here, it came with a pulley for the crank, and I printed a few of them in different sizes and put them together to make different types of pulleys. I also used it to make an alternator, a power steering pump, an idler, as well as the crankshaft pulley. The water pump itself I made to look like a electric water pump. On the top here, let me zoom out just a little bit. On the top here, if you have a really keen eye, you'll notice that the air cleaner is sitting back a little bit farther than it should. I had to take and move the air cleaner stud back a little bit because if it was up here, once again, it would interfere with the that local crossbar on the roll cage. I could have left it there, could have modified this, but I just moved it back because honestly, once you put this in the truck and close the cage down, you can't see it. You could just leave it off, but it would have bothered me to know that it wasn't there. I also drilled a couple holes into the front of it here to run oil cooler lines in for my oil cooler right here. And as you see, there's an Optima battery here. These aren't glued down yet because I need to paint them. And this is glued down to this little plate right here, which just uses the front bumper bolts. Just took them out and flipped them over and ran down through from the top instead of up through from the bottom. That holds this in place. That's to help close up this gap so that it's just not a big hole there. I think in the end, once this is all painted up, it'll add a lot more detail to the truck and will look a lot better whenever you look through the front. I do plan on finding something at the craft store to make a belt out of to go around these pulleys. I'm not sure what I'm going to use yet. It might just be some ribbon covered in PVA glue, but I'll figure that out after I paint it here. So I'm going to go ahead and prime this. I'm going to go ahead and paint these parts, and I'll come back and show you what they look like after they're finished. I will be right back. And here we have those parts painted up and ready to go into the truck. Let's start here with this motor. As you can tell, I went with a very basic, simple paint job on it. I painted the block and the head's aluminum color. I painted all the parts inside where you don't really see. They're painted a black. That way they'll kind of disappear when the motor is installed. The air cleaner itself is bright yellow. This is the same color yellow as the helmets on the drivers. Even though you really won't see this with the motor tucked up in the truck, I wanted to give a splash of color that you can just catch just a hint of. For a belt, I used some 1/4-inch ribbon from Walmart out of the crafts department here. Made a really nice belt for the pulleys here. Just kind of fed it around. And I glued it on each pulley and then sprayed it with dull coat, the whole motor. And when I sprayed the motor with dull coat, it stiffened the belt up nicely. Shouldn't have any problems with that since it's up and tucked up where it won't get hit by anything, and should last, well, forever. Next up is the oil cooler. On this one right here, I just painted the base black, so kind of blend in, and let that oil cooler pop. It's just painted silver aluminum there, given a black wash. And finally, we have this Optima yellow top battery here. Painted up, nice yellow top. Added a couple wires to it here. It's actually just one wire looped in the back with half of it painted black and the other half red. You won't see this part back here, so from this side, it gives it a nice scale detail. Okay, there's those parts all painted up. The next step for these is to go ahead and install them in the truck. So when I come back, I'll show you what they look like installed. I also want to show you something else here I did real quick. I also did a couple of these fuel and water cans here. 3D printed those and painted them up. One as a 5-gallon fuel tank or fuel can, and one as a 3-gallon water can. These roto packs will be put somewhere in the bed. I haven't decided exactly where yet, but I figured I'd show those off while I was showing off the other painted parts here. Well, next step, I'll be back to show you what these look like installed into the Gatekeeper. And here's the motor mounted in the chassis. This is its forever home. Here's that plate I made bolted down. The battery's glued to it, and the motor's mounted right here over top the servo with servo tape. This big piece of servo tape right down the top of the servo. I am really happy with how this motor turned out and how it looks in there. I think it's a great addition. I was honestly afraid it would look kind of cheesy in there, but I think it turned out nicely. I painted the sides here. You can see I painted silver, and you can see the servo there. This kind of continues that look on this side. And there's the other side. But I know you want to see it with the body on, so let's go ahead and put that body on and see how the completed project looks. And here we can see the motor in place through the body. The air cleaner right here between it and the top of the hood. I have about that much clearance, so probably that much room. Shouldn't never be an issue though, because I have to push pretty hard to get the hood to flex down. From this angle here, you can see the oil cooler right here behind the front bumper, as well as the Optima battery and the bottom of the motor. Just a little bit tilt up here, and you can see in and see the motor. The main thing here is whenever you look in, you're seeing something. Before, it was just a big black void, and I think this way gives it a much better scale appearance and makes the truck look more finished. So I can get a side view here. Just overall, I think it gives the truck a better appearance, and makes it look a little more scale, a little more realistic. And I like that for RC vehicles. I like ones that can actually look like real vehicles. So do I think it was worth it to put this motor in and go through all the headaches of painting it up and all that? Yes, I think it was. This like I said, makes the truck look much more realistic, and was another one of those little things that'll make it stand out from all your buddies whenever you guys get together. Because a lot of people don't put scale engines in them. I mean, there are a handful that do. So just a nice little one step farther, make you stand out just that little bit more. So your truck has a little bit of your personality in it, because you can paint the motor to fit how you think it should look. Like I said, I went with more of the factory racing block look. I mean, you could go paint it bright pink, whatever. Use your imagination, have fun with it. That's what this hobby's all about, it's just having fun. And for me, building stuff like this is fun. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope maybe I inspired you to take your truck and push the scale details just a little bit farther. And speaking of scale details, there's something else I did do to this truck. If you remember, in a previous video, we put the drop bed in this truck. Well, I went ahead and showed you those roto packs earlier. And there they are inside the bed. Just another nice little scale detail. And it makes the bed look more full. And yes, it adds weight, but let's be honest about it. The Gatekeeper is already a heavy truck to start with. Like I said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it inspired you. If you want to follow along on this truck and see what's next, because honestly, I don't know what's next. I think probably going to be upgrading the shocks. The element shocks rock, but I want to change the caps and show off some pistons I found from Corrupt Carbon Works. If you have any questions or comments, drop them below or hit us up on Instagram or Facebook. The links to those are down below. We post stuff on Instagram ahead of time of the videos, and you see some stuff on there that never makes it to videos. Please make sure you like and subscribe. That helps us out a lot, even just with a like for the algorithm. And until next time, happy RCing.